Dr. Estrop,
Here.
Mr. O'Neill, Mr. Rue, Mr. Copeland.
Thank you. So we're going to ask our city manager to introduce our guest.
Yes, Commissioners, thank you. So for tonight's work session, we do have one item before you, and that is Ms. Carrie McKee with Clark County Partners in Prevention.
Thank you. First of all, I want to just thank you for inviting me. I am very excited to get to share what is happening in our community, and it's very important that we share it with our commissioners because you can connect us to events or people or agencies that we need to be connected to. So with that being said, in December, we were awarded the Drug-Free Communities Grant, and that's a federal grant. We will receive $125,000 a year for 5 years. If we do what we're supposed to do, we can renew that after 5. So this could continue for a total of 10 years. We also have to find in-match monies for that $125,000, and we're doing that by our community agencies working together. So it's amazing that this community is pulling together and being able to do this. And with the drug-free community grants, we are connected with what's called CATCA, Communities of Anti-Drug Coalitions. Throughout the country, they have found strategies and effective ways of reducing substance use among youth. And I've included just a little flyer in the packet to show you some of the things that they do. We're required to follow their requirements because that's what makes things happen in communities. So we are wanting to work collaboratively with other agencies. We want to share our data. We want to create population outcomes, not just one-on-one outcomes. So those are just some of the things that are required of the CATCA community. So then to the next slide. What's happened in our community, and Dr. Estrop, you know this, we had the Clark County Substance Abuse Prevention, Treatment, and Support Coalition. Well, when we got the grant, we had to do certain structural things that had to be met, so we were following CATCA policies. They don't just give you that money and say, go to it. There's a lot of things that we have to do to build structure and sustainability and to do effective strategies. We can't just say, oh, they're doing that somewhere, that looks good, let's try that. So what happened was we kind of became sister coalitions. So we're working together very closely. The Substance Abuse Coalition is now doing recovery and treatment. They have a couple of work groups there. And what we do differently is that we make sure that in our room are sitting the 12 sectors of our community. You can see there's education, there's health, there's government, there's faith-based, there's 12 different sectors of the community. Now, those aren't the only people at the table. There are lots of people at the table and lots of people come and go. It's not just sitting at that table. Some are in work groups, some are doing different things. And the two things that we need to address in our community is tobacco use and underage drinking. The underage drinking is still the most common substance abuse. And once substances are started at a young age, we have a tendency that those can possibly become problems if they start very young. And then we have youth groups involved in our initiative also, and they are a real integral part of what we're doing. We've got 3 different groups, Promise Neighborhoods. We've got a group called BAT, Bringing Awareness to Students, and STARS, Students Talking About Real Stuff. We hope to grow that and eventually have a council that sits with our coalition and makes decisions. Then the health department is over there because they have the tobacco grant, and that's where we met, the tobacco task force. There are wonderful things happening there, and since we were going to be working on the same initiatives, it just made sense that we combined our resources that we had. And that came under the Ohio Department of Health. The reason the CDC is up there is because they now own the Drug-Free Communities Grant, the federal grant, and McKinley Hall is there because McKinley Hall agreed to host the Drug-Free Communities Grant. And I have to give Wendy Doolittle a lot of credit because Wendy, even though she's in treatment and recovery, she knew that we had to go upstream and start looking at the problem, that we can't just let people keep falling into the river. And that's a terminology that's been there around. So she said, I will host the Drug-Free Community Grant. I will help our community get it, but the Prevention Coalition is going to do it. So McKinley now does prevention, treatment, and recovery support. So we've taken on that extra role, and it's a lot for them to handle, but they agreed to do that. So next slide. I just want you to see a look at who's sitting at the table. All of these groups are working together. And like I said, not just at one time, but at different times we reach out for different help from the different groups, and partnerships are formed just to accomplish different things. We have a lot of community volunteers. We've got Clifton Avenue Church of God pastor is there. We have Ohio Certified Prevention Specialist and a retired pharmacist. So again, we're just reaching all sectors of our community. Okay, and some schools are real involved. Okay, the next one, just quickly, our vision, promote healthy, substance-free community. Mission, we're going to support and sustain these prevention efforts that address substance misuse by raising awareness, which we've been trying to do. What I'm doing tonight, providing education and advocating for policy change, because we're finding that policy change, and it doesn't mean policy change from your perspective, but maybe policy change at a school, like we're advocating right now for alternative to suspension. And we're getting a lot of schools interested in that. And that's a policy change. Also, our goal is to reduce underage drinking and e-cigarette use. This is our current goal among youth, and in turn, reduce substance use among adults. That will continue to change because there will be more substances that we're going to have to deal with. The legalization of marijuana, which is pending right now in the legislation, is going to be something else we have to deal with. Okay, so next one. So what's in it for me? The first one is personal, okay? There's a lot of cost and consequences to substance misuse. There's a whole list of them there. The legal problems, injuries, deaths, suicide, those are major ones, and they're happening in our community. The property damage, maybe property damage to my property or city property. Mental health challenges of people that have a substance use disorder with depression and anxiety, unintended pregnancies, our community. That's an issue in our community, or unprotected sexual activity. We just recently had an increase in syphilis in our community. Youth brain development or impairment, academic problems. I had talked to some students today from Cedarville. They were concerned about our community and our low graduation rate. So those things are all affected by substance use disorder. That's why we want to bring all the partners together and work together, because it affects almost every facet of our community. So the next one. Next slide. Okay, this is the what's in it for me for the community. Alcohol use annually contributes to about 104,000 deaths, and some of those deaths are homicide. Those affect communities. $249 billion was spent on alcohol problems in 2010. That's those things like assault, rape, unintentional injuries, property damage. The list goes on. And the other thing is there's been a 55% increase in alcohol-specific death rate from 2000 to 2016. The ER visits, a 62% increase involving alcohol. Again, that's a cost to our community with our squad runs and the strain it puts on our healthcare system. Violent crime increases when neighborhoods have a high density of places that sell or serve alcohol. And that has been shown to be in community after community. The places where there's highest density, there's more violence and more problems. And then what we're concerned about is since COVID, carry-out sales have increased. You can see wine is up and beer. And in June, that total also increased another 21%. So we got the data. It's not like we can just say there's a problem in our community. We've got data that shows it nationally. And then if you go to the next slide. Okay, one more thing before I get to it. Another thing that we know from Addiction of Policy Forum research is 90% of those who have a substance use disorder began using substances before they were 18. That's why it's important to us to, next slide, delay that first use. I'm not saying I'm not being Mother Stewart. I am saying we have to delay that first use because it's so important and the development of our youth brains. And the alcohol or other substances increase their inhibition and risky behavior. So here's what our community says. In 2019, we don't have any 2020 data because of COVID, but 52.7% of our 9th through 12th graders have had at least one drink. Almost 30% have had it in the last 30 days when they did this. What is scary, 40% almost say they can get it from friends. 16% say they're getting it at the home. We don't know if that's parents saying it's okay to drink at home, even though it's illegal, or saying that, it's okay, I'll take the keys just so you don't drive, that type of thing. We don't know, or if they're taking it from their parents. 22% almost said that they can get it from a retailer. And we've identified some retailers in our community that are selling to underage. And 26% of the parents that we surveyed know a parent who hosts a party where alcohol is provided in the home. What's scary? 29% of our middle schoolers said they've had at least one drink. And those are young students. Okay, next one. Okay, so what can we do as a coalition? We can start looking at providing training for retail sales so they start carding, or maybe helping them with learning to ID, or even provide the carding system. We can do things like provide stickers that say we only sell or this is only sold to someone over 21. There's things like that we can do. Like, we're identifying problem retail establishments. We can send letters as a group or a coalition. We can say, we don't care how much you sell, just don't sell it to youth. That's where our problems are starting, because like I said, that's a personal thing to me, and I've seen it happen with young underage drinking leads to problems later in life. So we're also promoting campaigns like Parents Who Host Lose the Most, Talk They Hear You, at our event that's coming up this next Wednesday, September 22nd. We're getting some flyers out. It's a night of hope. It's the rescheduling of our overdose awareness evening that was supposed to be out there. We are going to have a hidden in plain sight room, so all of you parents that want to see a teenager's room and where they hide things, that will be provided by a prevention specialist there. We also will have the driving simulator for drunk driving, that will be there. Our DARE group will be there. And we will have some other prevention materials that will be available, along with recovery support and support for treatment resources. All of those things will be provided. There's also free food, Narcan training and distribution of Narcan. All kinds of things are happening. And Representative Kyle Taylor, if he can, since it's been rescheduled, he may not be able to be there, but he has commendations for people that have been in the forefront of our community fighting the opioid epidemic. So we have some awards for those people. Okay, so am I taking too much time? 2 minutes, move it. Okay, next slide. Okay, these are just our tobacco numbers. I won't read them off because you have them there, but the same thing. And what we're concerned about is during this first week of school that the e-cigarettes have been found to have marijuana in them. So, and when we did compliance check, 32% were non-compliant. And so we're hoping that legislation passes. So we'll go to the next one. Okay, we're trying to address the local conditions by changing the messages. E-cigarettes have been promoted as safe, and safer does not mean, they might be safer, but that doesn't mean that they are safe. They still have nicotine in them. They still create addiction. Our youth are suffering going back to school, and they can't have their e-cigarettes, and they've already acquired addiction to them because in one Juul pod, there's the equivalent of 20 cigarettes. So we're trying to do the media literacy for our young people. We're trying to get in the forefront of marijuana legislation, and also hoping that the health department can then regulate the density of our tobacco license. Okay, next one. Okay, and that's some of the things that we're doing. So we're doing activities. Go ahead to the next one. That was an anti-vaping campaign that I did. And there's many more things besides just this alcohol and e-cigarettes that our coalition does. The Project Dawn at McKinley Hall, it's how we all work together. We're getting out in neighborhoods and providing resources with our GROW project, Get Recovery Options, the Overdose Awareness Night that we did. Now we have the Celebrate Recovery and Prevention Night. We're going to be doing an education virtual training for teachers, counselors, anyone sitting in the audience on pot and prevention we're teaming with the Mental Health Recovery Board to do that. Our Youth Wellness Day is coming up October 2nd that our youth are doing. Our Promise Neighborhoods youth are doing a bowling night out, so they have a substance-free activity that they're doing. We pass out medicine disposal bags with the Clark County Sheriff's Department. We do trainings for families that have already been touched by substance use, so we don't have generational substance use, with creating lasting family connections. The Prime for Life is our alternative to suspension. And those are all evidence-based education things. Boston Life Skills is another one that Wellspring and Children and Families First initiative have brought to our community. And I think that's pretty much it. Can you go to the last slide there? I just want to thank you. Check out our website at clarkcountypip.org, and we have a Facebook page. And come to our event next week, Wednesday at the Hollenbeck. It is free. There's food, all kinds of things happening there. So, and I've included much more materials in the packet. There are things in there like our logic models to show you that we're looking at our data and figuring out what to do with the data that we have. Okay?
Thank you, Carrie.
Yes.
If I could, I got to know Carrie through the work that we were both involved in with the Substance Abuse Prevention, Treatment, and Support Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to compliment Springfield and Clark County and your leadership of that group, because I think with the formation of that group that cut across city and county and organization boundaries, we recognized that we had to pull together on this issue if we're going to be effective. And I think that understanding helped us secure this grant. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely, definitely. If we hadn't had the first coalition, we wouldn't be able to have gotten this, because we had to show that we were able to be effective and that we were learning to function as a coalition. So and the health department took a leadership on that, along with McKinley Hall and the Mental Health Recovery Board. But everybody had to work together, and I thank you for that. Yeah. And being a part of it, because you've been there through a lot of meetings.
Well, thank you for your leadership.
Well, thank you.
And we thank you, Carrie, for coming. Are there any other comments from commissioners? And we'll be talking to our law director about working on some legislation about tobacco, because as you know, Governor DeWine has made it where you have to be 21 to purchase tobacco. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It is 4:30 to 6:30. Is it okay if I leave a couple flyers?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be great. City managers, is there anything else we need to do before we ask for adjournment?
No, Commission, we do not have
Thank
any
you.
add-ons tonight, so we can proceed to the agenda.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Dr. Estrad,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton.
Yes. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned for the work session. The public hearing will be scheduled for 6:55, but I guess it's past 6:55, so we'll just go right on into that. So the public hearing scheduled for 6:55 will come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
Here.
Dr. Estrad,
Here.
Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Mr. Rue, Mr. Copeland.
Thank you. The purpose of this hearing is to consider a dual street renaming. Has proper legal notice been given?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the renaming of a portion of West Clark Street from Wittenberg Avenue to Plum Street to the proposed dual naming of West Clark Street, Eulish Road Senior Way, was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached here too are true and correct copies of the legal notices published on August 23rd and 30th, 2021.
I move that the communication be ordered received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes,
Mrs. Chilton.
Yes. Thank you. May we have the staff report?
Hello, everyone. I would
Hello.
like to begin by giving a quick background of Ulysses Rhodes Sr. and his life achievements. Ulysses Rhodes Sr. was born on February 2nd, 1921, and was raised in a little town of Sparta, Georgia. He had to quit school at an early age and work in the cotton fields. He later married and moved to Springfield in early 40s for better opportunities. His first job was with Crowell Collier plant until it shut down in the 50s. He began working with the City of Springfield's sanitation department until his retirement in 1989. He was an active member and deacon emeritus for Restored Life Ministries, formerly known as St. Luke Baptist Church. He purchased a house on Wittenberg Avenue, and after 30 years, he purchased their second home at 308 West Clark Street. If you could look at the slide where the blue cursor is, that is 308 West Clark Street. A great man known by many, he passed away on May 12, 2021. Renaming part of West Clark Street as Ulysses Rhodes Senior Way will be a great way to memorialize his legacy and is the basis for the request made by the applicant. Analysis and staff recommendations. While a street renaming is permitted per zoning code, the process of renaming a part of street causes hardship to surrounding residents as they have to deal with changes made to legal, property, financial documents. The case to rename part of West Clark Street was heard at the City Planning Board meeting on August 9th, where staff had recommended denial for renaming the street. However, after discussion, it was explained to the applicant and all guests present at meeting that the application would be amended and approved as being a request to dual name the street as Ulysses Rhodes Senior Way. The decision and approval was conveyed to city staff and all departments, and the city staff has recommended approval of the amended request to dual name part of West Clark Street from Wittenberg Avenue to Plum Street as Ulysses Rhodes Senior Way. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the commission? If not, I would like to say that this is really great. Deacon Rose, by the people being here, we can see that he was important. I think he lived to be 100, am I correct? Thank you. All right. So this is the first reading. The second reading and the vote will be 2 weeks from now. I believe that would be September the 28th.
That is correct.
Okay, so we will have a vote from the commission on September the 28th, and after that, could you explain the process before that sign goes up?
Yes, so commissioners, assuming the commission passes the ordinance on September 28th for the renaming, we will work with the applicant as part of our street renaming process. The applicant's responsible for half the cost, so we'll work with the applicant on the cost of the materials, making sure we get sign plates to be able to put up there. As most people realize right now, we're dealing with supply chain issues, so getting the materials can be an issue and slow down the process, but as soon as we get those materials in and are able to make the signs in-house, then we would work to place them.
Thank you. Are there any comments from anyone in the audience?
good, Commissioner. I think this is great, and I'm delighted to see everyone here tonight in support of this. At least I assume you're in support of it. We need to recognize and hold up the names of people who have contributed to the building of our community. I think this is one way we can do that. And please know I plan to vote yes our next meeting in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Estrop. Are there any comments from the audience at this time? Would anyone like to speak? If you would, go to the microphone, give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Pastor Raymond Lloyd, El Bethel Temple. Greetings to everyone. Again, this is a great honor for a great man and a great family. But you said there was going to be some cost. Could you give us an estimate of what the cost may be at this present time?
Right now, the estimated cost is around $1,000 for all the sign materials. The way our application is written or our code is written, that is split 50-50 between the city and the app. But we would have more idea of the exact cost once we had a price on materials and so forth.
That means the family and community would have to come up with about $500, is that correct?
Yes, approximately.
Okay, thank you.
Count me in on that.
Thank you, Dave. I will also help.
Yeah.
Are there comments from anyone else in the audience? Please go to the microphone and give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Sam Rhodes Rashida. I currently reside in the city of Cleveland. Drove down here today, as a matter of fact. And I'm touched. And I just want to thank everybody for coming. And David, you really hit the spot, bro. I just want you to know that. But when I say Tucker, y'all say? Rhodes. When I say Rhodes, y'all say? Tucker. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Papa Rhodes, we call him. Some people call him Deacon Rhodes. Some people call him Tooby. Got all kind of names for him, but he's known all over this city. And I really felt that with everything that's going on in the city of Springfield over the years, I left here in 1969. And I went all the way to Florida A&M, went through school, but I owe everything that I've ever accomplished in life to my dad. And I retired 15 years ago as a bank executive from Huntington Bank. And I just want you to know that in this room, his siblings, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, they scattered all over Springfield. We lived in Liberty Street, we lived in Payne Avenue, we lived on Western Avenue, Yellow Spring Street, Harrison Avenue. Then he moved back on West Liberty Street. Then he moved over to Wittenberg where he bought his first home. Then he bought his next home on Clark Street. So if you notice, matter of coincidence, Wittenberg, right there where Kyford is, merges with Clark Street. So you got Papa Rose Wittenberg, Papa Rose Clark Street. And all we're asking for is that little section. Sometimes you ask for a little, you get a lot. But for us, that's a lot. And I'm hoping, because in Cleveland, what we do for people like Steve Harvey, and I think my father's more important than Steve Harvey, they actually have his picture along with a dual sign, but Steve Harvey's picture is right there on the sign. I'm hoping, I know it'd be an extra cost, but with this city, I don't see that as a problem. This man was 100 years old, and he died peaceful. And I would be remiss if I didn't come in here and just say that. He was God-fearing, loved the Lord, never heard the man cussing. I'm his son, and he got 11 children. He had all the reasons in the world to do just that. And I was probably the number one reason. But I want to thank the city of Springfield. I really do. And special thanks to George Chilton. You know, she's known my father forever. And we've known the Chilton family. And I'm just honored. And that's all. And I hope I'm speaking on behalf of everybody. So when I say Tucker, y'all say?
Thank you. Thank you, Sammy. Are there any other comments from the audience at this time? Please go to the microphone, give us your name and address.
Hello, my name is Leisha Rood. I reside here in Springfield. I'm the granddaughter of Ulysses Rhodes Sr. So seeing this it would definitely be a blessing. You know, I lost my father. He was Ulysses Rhodes Jr. So just seeing both names, even though it's going to be Senior on the street, is still a reminder for me because my father also lived on Clark Street. So, I mean, you just don't know what this does for me. You know, my father moved away and moved to Memphis. And when my father returned, I had to see him in a casket, you know. So just to see that name as I'm riding down the street would do a lot. Would do a lot. Rest in peace, Grandpa and Daddy. I love you.
Is there anyone else before we ask for adjournment and close the hearing out? Please give us your name and address.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Gladys Road, 1208 Dybert, here in Springfield. Ulysses Rhodes Sr. was my father. I am now his oldest living child. My father, Ulysses Rhodes, never drove a car. When it came to work, after retiring 29 and a half years, you can tell from that he was dedicated. He got to work however way it took. If he had to walk, he got to work. He was a good man, a caring man, a thankful to God man, if I stand here and say it again. We loved our father. He was good to us. He did whatever it took for us to be who we are today. I'm so grateful to all of you for everything, for even letting it get this far. It's amazing. And I thank you. We thank you. We appreciate it all. Thank you.
Final call. Is there anyone else?
Yes, my name is Jermaine Maynard, the current pastor of Restore Life Ministries, and I'm here with the former pastor of Restore Life Ministries. We love Deacon Rhodes. Deacon Rhodes meant everything to us, and I'm gonna leave you with this. I don't mean to rhyme, but it happens sometimes. The church done gave him the seat. Now we need the city to give him the street. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Maynard. Are there any other comments? If not, we'll call for adjournment.
So moved.
I moved adjournment.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrand?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes. Thank you. We'll start the city commission meeting in a few minutes here. Okay. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. meeting of the City Commission is called to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Here.
Dr. Estrom?
Here.
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Mr. Rue? Mr. Copeland?
Thank you. Would everyone please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? Dear wise and loving Father, first, let us say thank you on behalf of our commissioners, our staff, and citizens. Thank you for allowing us to serve your people in a meaningful manner. Thank you for your many blessings of health, strength, and safety for our city of Springfield. Please continue to strengthen us as we go forward, making decisions for our city. Thank you for many resources in Springfield community for food pantries, nonprofits, healthcare. We thank you for our facilities that give COVID-19 vaccines and COVID testing, all working together to keep you, our citizens, and our community healthy and safe from sickness. Mostly, thank you for giving strength to our Commissioner O'Neill's family during this time of sorrow for the passing of his wife, Mrs. Linda O'Neill. Blessings to our Mayor Copeland. May his health be restored. Bless our agenda to be fruitful and for the common good of the people. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes. Thank you. Will you proceed with the first readings by title only?
Renaming a portion of West Clark Street from Wittenberg Avenue to Plum Street to the dual naming of West Clark Street, Eulish Road, Senior Way. Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 2 to the consulting agreement with Urban Fast Forward Limited for the Springfield Engaged Neighborhood Planning Process Development Phase 2 to extend the completion date to April 1, 2022. Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 2 to the Springfield Comprehensive Housing Strategic Planning and Policy Development Consulting Agreement with Greater Ohio Policy Center Incorporated to extend the contract completion date to April 1, 2022. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a development incentive agreement, single-family residential development, with Jason Britcher and Kimberly Foltz to provide for sewer services to real property outside the city limits. Confirming and approving the execution of a grant agreement for the acceptance of an airport improvement program zero emissions vehicle grant with the Federal Aviation Administration in an amount up to $46,519 for the purchase of one electric sedan vehicle at the Springfield Beckley Municipal Airport, and authorizing the city manager, law director, director of finance, and airport manager to do all things necessary for the acceptance of the grant and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements. Vacating unnecessary right-of-way located at Prime Ohio 2 and directing the city clerk to notify the county of such vacation. Confirming and approving a short-term agreement with the Community Improvement Corporation of Springfield and Clark County, Ohio for pre-development improvements at Prime Ohio 2. Confirming and approving the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with Whitaker Hauling for abatement and nuisance condition services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $40,000. Confirming and approving the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with Gary Gilbert Jr. doing business as Gilbert's Lawn Service for abatement and nuisance condition services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $40,000. Confirming and approving the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with OMAC Hauling Incorporated for abatement and nuisance condition services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $40,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into Amendment 1 with JCI Jones Chemicals Incorporated for the purchase of sodium hypochlorite for use by the city's wastewater treatment plant to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $7,200 for a total amount not to exceed $90,000, and confirming and approving related expenditures incurred from September 2nd, 2021 to the passage of this ordinance. Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 with JCI Jones Chemicals Incorporated for the purchase of liquid chlorine for use by the city's water treatment plant to exercise the option to renew and increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $8,500 for a total amount not to exceed $43,500, and confirming and approving related expenditures incurred from August 30th, 2021 to the passage of this ordinance. Authorizing the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with Synagro Central LLC for removal and land application of biosolids for an amount not to exceed $1,238,600, and confirming and approving related expenditures from July 31, 2021 to the passage of this ordinance. Confirming and approving change order number 2 to the contract between the city and Moody's of Dayton Incorporated for the well pump cleaning and rehabilitation project to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $35,437 for a total amount not to exceed $1,349,368, and authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 12. Confirming and approving agreement number 36890 with West Erie Realty Solutions Limited for the Yellow Spring Street reconstruction, PID number 109491, for an amount not to exceed $88,480. Authorizing an expenditure for an amount not to exceed $75,979.47 with Tyler Technologies Incorporated, formerly known as New World Systems Corporation, for the period of October 1, 2021 through March 31, 2022, to maintain computer software used by the city's public safety department.
Oh, thank you, Jill. You got to do all of it. Are there any questions from our commissioners on any of the items?
Yes, item 225-18 and 224-18. I was wondering if the staff could tell us a little about the services we're receiving on both those contracts.
Yes, Commissioner, I'll ask Steve Thompson, our Deputy Community Development Director, to discuss these.
Good evening, Commissioners. So item 22518, that is extending the contract with Urban Fast Forward, and that's for phase 2 of our Engaged Neighborhood Plan. So this is the area from Center Street heading west towards Yellow Springs. Then to the north is bounded by Pleasant, and to the south, Perrin. So this is extending that contract through April to wrap up their final report. We're going to hold a final workshop, workshop number 3 on October 9th, and that will be from 10 to 12:30 at the Covenant United Methodist Church on West State Street. And in this presentation, they will present their findings based on all the feedback we've gathered so far. After that, they will begin writing their final report.
Steve, is the public invited to that meeting on October 9th?
Yes, that is a public meeting. Anyone can attend.
Okay, and so could you give the date, times, and place again, please?
Sure. That's Saturday, October 9th. That's from 10 a.m. and we're hoping to wrap up by noon. But I'm sure the consultants will stick around longer for comment.
Okay, thank you. And the place?
Covenant United Methodist Church. I believe their address is 529 West State Street.
Okay, thank you so much.
Then the following item is extending our contract with Greater Ohio Policy Center to develop their strategic housing plan. So this is a plan they've been working with a steering committee, also our housing consortium group. That consists of bankers and other nonprofits in the city to develop a strategic housing plan. They are in the process of wrapping up their final report as well, but we wanted to give them enough time to still reach out to folks who they might not have been able to connect with yet.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the commission? Are there questions from the?
Actually, I have one more. I want to make sure I've got this right. It's item 162-17. we're spending over $1 million on a pump, but as I recall, this is a pump that, in fact, brings water into our city from the aquifer. Am I correct in that?
Yes, Commissioners, this is several pumps, and I'll have Service Director Chris Moore describe this in more detail.
Commissioners, so what this is that we have 12 wells at the water treatment plant. We clean these wells on a every 3 to 4 year cycle. As we're cleaning them, when we encounter problems with the mechanics, we come to you for a change order to make any of those necessary repairs. This specific change order, one of the well casings had, for argument's sake, had failed. This puts a new liner in that well casing and preserves it for probably 20-ish years down the road.
Guaranteeing that the people in Springfield will have good, clean, fresh water.
That is exactly what we want.
Thank you.
There are no more comments from the commission. Are there comments from the audience? Remember, there's a 3-minute time limit.
My name is Mike Lowe. My address is on file. I wanted more information on number 15019.
Yes, I will also ask Chris Moore to provide a little bit more information related to this item.
So item 15019 is for the removal of biosolids, is what it reads. To simplify, when all of the waste goes to our wastewater treatment plant, it is separated into liquids and into solids. The liquids are treated and discharged in the Mad River. The solids are contained on site, allowed to break down, decompose, dewatered, and then they are taken and spread on farm fields to be used as fertilizer. This contract is with a company that does all of the solids handling. They handle all of the regulatory compliance, and then they spread it as appropriate on farm fields. If for some reason the farm fields cannot accept the sludge that we have, we then are forced to landfill it. This contract is large because we have to plan for landfilling. In reality, in a normal year, we will probably spend about $170,000. But we get authorization for the worst case scenario in case we have to put it in a landfill. We haven't had to do that since 2015.
The possibility of not being able to put it on the fields, is that more than likely in the winter when the fields are frozen? Is that what part of the issue is here?
Correct. If the fields are frozen for too long or if they're too muddy to apply it. So we have a sludge storage facility at our place. You recently approved some legislation to expand that facility to make sure we have capacity to hold more. That keeps it dry and ready for them to come get it when the conditions are right to get it field applied.
What's the cost? You told us at our last meeting, and I've forgotten, Mr. Moore, the difference in cost between hauling the dry sludge as opposed to the wet. It was a pretty significant difference in cost.
Yes. To put it on a field, it's $22 per wet ton. To put it in a landfill is $105 per wet ton. So we like to go with the $22 option whenever possible.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or response from our audience? If not, clerk, please proceed with second readings.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 0.3 acre at 1815 Columbus Avenue, Springfield, Ohio, from RS5 Low Density Single Family Residence District to CC2 Community Commercial District.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the commission on this?
Being that I wasn't here at the last meeting, were there any objections, Steve, to this?
No, there were no objections.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 0.57 acre at 25 West Harding Road, Springfield, Ohio, from RS5 Low Density Single Family Residence District to PD Plan Development.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Thank you. Are there additional comments from the commission?
Same question, Steve. Were there any objections?
No, no.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the audience? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Renaming a portion of West McBride Avenue from North Fountain Boulevard to St. Paris Road to the dual naming of West McBride Avenue, Herman Carr Way.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Are there any comments from the commission? Any comments from the audience?
We appreciated the people at our last meeting who came and advocated for this. They presented a very good case. Thank you.
Thank you, and we look forward to seeing that signage going up as well. So thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated for the city's 2021 collection of fall bag leaves program for an amount not to exceed $61,500.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Thank you. Are there additional comments from the commission? From the audience? If not, we will call the roll, please.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated for trash pickup at various city facilities for a period of 3 years with an option to renew for 2 additional 1-year periods for an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved in second. Are there any additional comments from the commission? From the audience? Please call the roll.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Waste Management of Ohio Incorporated for trash pickup at various city facilities for a period of 3 years with an option to renew for 2 additional 1-year periods for an amount not to exceed $60,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved in second. Are there comments from the commission?
Yes. At our last meeting, I asked our law director if she could provide us some guidance on whether or not, given what's going on at the barrel fill, or more accurately stated, what's not going on at the Tremont barrel fill, and 55% of the responsibility of that lying with Waste Management, if that could in any way weigh on our vote this evening relative to this contract with Waste Management.
Yes, Commissioner, I did have a chance to look into that. So we follow Springfield Codified Ordinance. It's 145.04 for awarding contracts, and we look at the lowest and best assessment process. So it's not just the low bidder, but it's looking at all the information submitted to do a true apples-to-apples comparison. And also, if we've had particular work experience with a contractor or vendor, what our experience has been like, have there been timeliness issues, has it been successful? So we try to do a full assessment process for that to make a recommendation for commission.
Is there any hesitancy on the part of the administration in terms of recommending this currently as the lowest cost and best bid?
No, Commissioners, there is not any issue with this from a staff approval standpoint. We believe the recommendation is correct in recommending to you Waste Management for this contract, this specific contract. They are lowest and best in providing this service.
I'm very frustrated, and I know many others are, that this is the same company who primarily owns the Tremont barrel fill that contains 1 million gallons of toxic waste near our water source, the aquifer that serves Springfield, Clark County, and a good share of Southwest Ohio. And the Justice Department of the United States government and the United States EPA seems absolutely callously disregarding the welfare of our community, this county, and this area. My frustration and anger is pretty hard right now, pretty heavy, because they callously have disregarded for 3 years a settlement that the United States EPA placed on this community, on the people for safe water, this whole area. They demanded that what they said was very straightforward. The United States EPA, take it or leave it. That was 3 years ago. And we have no resolution today. Not one shovel full of dirt has been turned at the Tremont barrel fill. Now, are we just callously indifferent because we're not in Washington, D.C.? We're out here in the hinterlands, and so they don't give a damn? Or are they just plain incompetent and can't get it done in the United States Justice Department and the U.S. EPA? I'm not sure which, or maybe it's a little of both. But I know every day that that barrel fill goes unaddressed, a potential disaster looms over our head. And I would think, given what's going on out west, with the drought and the needs being expressed for water and the people wringing their hands in terms of what they're going to do for good water, that the people in Washington, D.C. would be paying attention to the fact that here in Springfield we have good water, but there's a threat to it. But they seem immune to our calls. United States EPA, United States Department of Justice, where's the justice? And Waste Management, 55% responsible for that barrel fill. I want to ask you this question. Can I take action individually? Can I, in fact, give up my contract, personal contract with Waste Management without getting the city commission in trouble?
Commissioner, you can do usual acts of terminating contracts in your private capacity, just like anyone else can.
So if I choose tomorrow to call Waste Management and say, I no longer want your service because of what you're doing at Tremont or not doing at Tremont, I'm not going to put the city at risk.
That's correct.
Good.
Brian, I have a question on the contract. What was the bids? I'm confident we put this out for bid, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
What
There
was
were
the
two
next bid?
bidders, Rumpke of Ohio and Waste Management of Ohio. As you know, we just approved the contract with Rumpke of Ohio.
Yes.
The previous item, that is because they can provide the trucks that can fit within the police division, public safety building, as well as City Hall. Now their expense did exceed Waste Management's for the rest of the city facilities, which is why we recommended approval of Waste Management's contract. And we've had contracts with Waste Management for this particular service for a number of years now and have had no issues relative to that service. So again, to our law director's thing, we examine lowest and best as it's specific to this contract, to this task order that we are asking a contractor to provide. And at this point, our recommendations stand as Rumpke for those two facilities and then Waste Management for the remaining.
Well, on this particular contract, how much higher was Rumpke?
I believe that the total over 3 years was about $20,000.
I'm going to vote to table this tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to move that we table this until we have a chance. I would like the law director to look at, the commission would like to find a way to negate this contract by having a meeting with Waste Management, a meeting with our city manager, and start the ball rolling with regards to them taking a position
that would benefit not only them, but the city of Springfield. $20,000 is not enough to make a difference with regards to not accepting Rumpke. If we have a problem in other areas with waste management, what's the worst they can do, sue us? So be it. I move that we table this contract until further negotiation.
Commissioners-
We already have a motion on the table.
I will just state, our contracts for trash hauling services does expire before even the next meeting. And so we would have to have an alternative in place, so.
I would like to
If commission
negotiate
would-
with Rumpke to temporarily take over that service until such time as Waste Management chooses to deal with us.
Well, I don't think it would be for a temporary. I would recommend that commission, if they are so inclined to vote this contract down, they would vote this contract down, and then the city would work with the next bidder on the contract.
That's what I'd like to do. I think we have to take a position that we're not gonna put up with it, and again, if we have to go to court, we go to court.
I guess my concern is, I hate to see us get sued and lose. On the other hand, they're paying no attention to us. And
We're not gonna know if we're gonna lose until we do it, because they're ignoring us.
But this is part of the business with the EPA, not with the city contract.
It doesn't matter. In my opinion, it doesn't matter. We shouldn't be giving them money, any money from the city of Springfield, as long as they keep us in jeopardy.
Commissioner, if I could chime in here. What would happen if you turn them down in this instance is it would have to go through a bid protest process through the city. It would not be a question of being sued. It would be a question of them going through the process.
Well, can we ask them to appear at the next public meeting and address the issue? I mean, don't you think it's time that the owner of this tell us why they're not pushing forward aggressively to solve this problem on behalf of the people of Springfield? I mean, the solution on the table right now that we got stuffed down our throat is a solution that was proposed by Waste Management. This is their solution. Now, why aren't they advocating for it?
Because it would affect them negatively in other arenas. That's
All
why.
about money.
It's all
But
about
we don't
money.
want
All
to-
about money.
But we don't want to hold up the city's services for waste over something that the EPA needs to decide. And I believe we have a motion on the table. Law Director, am I correct?
Correct. We have a motion that is on the table that's received a first and a second.
Okay.
I hate to do that. But I would like to follow with a motion, if I could.
But if let me ask the law director, there is a motion on the floor and it has been seconded, but now there's a counter motion. Doesn't that have to be rectified before you go to the other motion?
Who's made the counter motion?
Hmm?
Who's made the counter motion?
I made the counter motion that we table the
That had not been seconded,
Correct. So there's not been a second on that.
Well-
I need to call for a vote. too.
or just, yeah.
Hmm.
There's no second to your counter motion,
I need
then
a second, Dave.
I'll second.
There you have
Well,
it.
we haven't finished with
You
asking for
don't have to,
comments
because
from the
that's up to you.
audience.
That's fine. But we do have a second now.
So I'm gonna ask for comments from the audience, and I believe that there may be people that want to say something regarding this.
My name is Mike Lowe, and I was a member originally of Tremont City, that landfill. So waste management's been going on basically for 30 years. They've ignored us completely. What I would like to see is you need a trash hauler. Why don't you try to convince Vince or Man that are local to see what they could do? The waste management, they don't concern that. They don't have any, all they're looking for is the dollars. For 30 years, it's been that way.
My name's Larry Ricketts. I live at 1736 North Fountain Boulevard. I'm here tonight as a representative of the People for Safe Water. I certainly appreciate the passion with which this has been discussed tonight, especially Commissioner O'Neill, Commissioner Estrup, Commissioner Chilton. I understand your concerns for this. But I think we have a chance here to make a real statement. We've begged, we've pleaded, we've done everything for so long with the US EPA and with the Department of Justice. The third part of that triangle are the principal responsible parties. As you've mentioned, the largest one of those is Waste Management. They're responsible for 55% of the costs. We have an opportunity to send a message that we can't send to the US EPA, that we can't send to the Department of Justice. We have the opportunity, you have the opportunity to send a message that is financial. Now, $60,000 is not going to hurt the bottom line of Waste Management under the worst of circumstances. But it does test a political hot potato that you want to pass around. So, Commissioner, first of all, two things. Commissioner Estrup, I think you dropping Waste Management would be an excellent idea. I would suggest everybody in Clark County follow suit. We had a decision 7 years ago when we moved back to Springfield which trash hauler we were going to use, and we absolutely ruled out Waste Management for this very reason. And I don't think it's unfair of us or anybody else to ask that the citizens of Clark County take a hard look at this and say Waste Management is not being a good neighbor. They're not being a responsible party. And they should drop their trash service. There's plenty of other haulers around. So that's number one. But number two, I appreciate everything that you're saying tonight. Table it, yes, because I really think this is a decision probably all four commissioners and the mayor should make. And I like your idea of getting Waste Management in here. We have not been able to get them to the table. Maybe this is something that will bring them. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments from the audience?
I'd like to suggest, it would be my intent, I want to know if this would, I don't want to see us do without trash service. So I'm thinking, really am looking for some guidance. Vote no on the motion to table and vote no on the main motion. And to make a substitute motion awarding this contract to Rumpke of Ohio, because I believe Waste Management does not pass the best test.
Brian's got an answer.
Commission, you can certainly proceed in that fashion, that route. One, you would have to vote down the current tabling motion, then vote down the contract award to Waste Management, and then a motion to accept the next lowest and best bid, which was Rumpke of Ohio, and vote on that.
That would be my intent.
And by us doing that, we're declaring them better and best.
Yes.
Okay.
All director?
That's correct. So we have the motion to table, which was the subsidiary motion. So that has to come to vote, and then we can go back to the main motion. And then if there is a new motion, depending on what happens with that main motion, we can entertain that then.
Well, we are going to ask our clerk to call the roll for tabling the motion.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
No.
We're voting on tabling the motion.
Yes, we are.
I'm voting not to table it.
And I'm voting too, so you're the split.
No.
That a girl?
Actually, it's got.
You're doing fine.
Okay. So since the motion is not tabled, then we go to.
Original vote.
The original vote.
To approve.
To approve the original, ordinance here.
Right.
And you want to read that again before we vote on it, please?
The title of the ordinance? Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Waste Management of Ohio Incorporated for trash pickup at various city facilities for a period of 3 years with an option to renew for 2 additional 1-year periods for an amount not to exceed $60,000. And the motion was to approve. Mr. O'Neill?
No.
Dr. Estra?
No.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes. Okay.
Now we gotta put something else on the table.
I would like to
Okay.
make a motion if I could. I would like to move that we authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Rumpke of Ohio, Inc. for trash pickup at various city facilities for a period of 3 years with an option to renew for 2 additional one-year periods for an amount not to exceed $60,000.
It'd be for
I'm doing this because, $95,000. I apologize. Not to exceed $95,000. And I'm doing this because I believe Waste Management is not the lowest and best bidder. I don't think they qualify as best.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Are there other comments from the commissioners?
I agree with both of my fellow commissioner, and this is not gonna break the city, nor is it gonna break Waste Management. But enough is enough, and I still encourage us to bring them in and make them admit to what they're doing, because it's not gonna go any further. They've made it clear that the federal government's gonna do nothing. If they were gonna do something, they would have done it a long time ago. And this is Waste Management's, I wanna repeat that Dr. Estrop said, this is their proposal. Everyone knows that. And now they're stalling because if they accept this, it's gonna affect them throughout the country. And they don't want that to happen. So yes, I'm gonna be voting yes on this.
And I think it's important to remember, this has been stalled under both Republican and Democratic administration.
Mm-hmm.
This is not owned by one party or the other. This thing hasn't moved for 20, 30 years. And certainly in the last 3, it hasn't moved much. So I think it's time for us to take a stand and make it clear. And I would like to see us extend an invitation to Waste Management and come and meet with us to talk with you. But I think it's time we take a stand and say enough's enough. You've threatened our water supply for far too long, and this problem should have been solved a long time ago.
And I feel Clark County should take the same position.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So are there any additional comments from our audience on this? We are voting to give the contract to Rumpke.
Yep.
If not, we have the motion to call a roll, please.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
In the interest of the city not having trash service, I'm gonna vote yes. I don't like it, but I'm gonna vote yes. Thank you.
Nice to see you always have a reason.
Thank you. Okay.
Reorganizing the police division to the extent of establishing one sergeant position in the police division of the Department of Public Safety.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any additional comments from the commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to submit an application for financial assistance and accept a grant from the state of Ohio, Ohio Public Works Commission, to obtain funding in the amount up to $594,760 for the Yellow Spring Street reconstruction, Phase 1, PID number 109491, and authorizing the city manager, law director, finance director, and city engineer to do all things they consider necessary for the submission of the application for financial assistance and the acceptance of the grant.
Moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a second. Are there additional comments from the commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, please call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a plat agreement, Kingsgate Commons, Section 13A, between the city and Kingsgate Commons, authorizing the city manager, law director, and finance director to do all things necessary to implement the said plat agreement, Kingsgate Commons, Section 13A.
So moved.
Second.
Of a second, are there additional comments from the commissioners?
Steve, any objections at the last meeting?
Yeah, there were no
Okay.
objections.
Thank you.
Any comments from the audience? May we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes. I believe, well, we have one more. No, that's it. Okay, I think that concludes our agenda for the evening. Are there additional comments from the commissioners? I will start off. Thank you. The Family Needs Incorporated is having a community health fair at 36 East Grand Avenue on Thursday, October the 14th, from 10 to 11 p.m. There will be healthcare information, nurse and patient advocates, blood pressure checks, COVID-19 vaccines, information for spiritual health, healthy snacks, bottled water, and more. And we have a lot of sponsors, including Dr. Nira Vetlas, Heart Health Now, Rocking Horse, The Eagle, Care Source, 4 and the Clark County Combined Health District. And part of Care Source, I believe they are doing the $100 gift cards for all Medicaid and MyCare members 18 and older who received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. And MyCare Ohio is a managed care program designed for Ohioans who receive both Medicaid and Medicare benefits. So there will be patient advocates there and also Care Source to help you get insurance if you don't have it, so you can qualify for the gift card.
Thank you, Commissioner. I wanted to take some time to share some very personal information with you. I got my 2 shots. I got vaccinated, Pfizer vaccine out at the old penny store. And I thought I was good. And I was about to enter into a medical procedure over at OSU, so I had to go in for a COVID test. I had no symptoms, felt fine. I tried to be careful. And lo and behold, on the rapid test, the first one, I was fine, negative. 2 days later, I found out I tested positive for COVID. And I'm thinking, how in the world can this be? Well, this Delta variant is scary. It's very scary. Now, I'm overjoyed that no one I came in contact with, including my colleagues here on the commission and city staff, no one was infected. My wife did not get it. But when I was 7 years old, I had polio, and it affected my lungs. And so I thought, I need to get these shots because otherwise, this COVID is a substantial threat to my well-being. So I did. The vaccination, from my perspective, probably saved my life. Because without them, I'm not sure I could have withstood the disease. So I want to plead with people. If you haven't gotten vaccinated with both shots or the one Johnson & Johnson, please consider it. As a result of being vaccinated, I did not experience what many are now going through. And it's nothing more than the vaccine. So please, I plead with you. Get the shot, wear the mask, practice social distancing, and wash your hands frequently. This disease is a horrible disease, and it's taken too many from us who otherwise would be here with us today. So again, please consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Health Fair, October the 14th at the Family Needs Food Pantry. Are there any other comments from commissioners?
I would agree with Dr. Estrop. If you don't have a specific health reason why you wouldn't take the vaccine and it's available to you, you're just fighting the odds that you're not going to get it. And if you're unlucky enough to get it, the fight is unbelievable for most people. With what Dr. Estrop described as having polio and lung damage, there's other forms of lung damage besides that. Pulmonary fibrosis is huge. And all I can say is that if you have the opportunity to take the vaccine, forget what the TV says. Talk to your doctor. You have confidence in him or her for your other medical reasons. Talk to your doctor. I can only tell you that my wife couldn't take the vaccine because of her radiation treatments and her cancer until later on. And it's just a situation that even though she contracted COVID, she had other underlying circumstances that I feel lent to her death. Nothing she could do. Quite frankly, it was a blessing. She suffered long enough. But at the end of the day, the only thing I sat up in the COVID ward of Soin for 27 days. I saw so many people die during that period of time. And what they told me is the majority of them were not vaccinated. I pray that our mayor is strong enough to come through this, because that has a lot to do with it. If you have the strength to take the treatments that have to happen, because there's other underlying situations that it can affect. And like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I got this one. If you're hesitant about taking it, contact your physician. Don't listen to the people on TV. You've got a doctor, ask him or her. And then you can make an informed decision. Thank you.
Are there any comments from the audience at this time? 3-minute limit, please.
My name is Mike Lowe. On August the 30th, Monday, I called the law department at 8 o'clock and nobody called me back. At 1:45 in the same day, nobody called me back. So on August 31st, on Tuesday, I went down to the city and asked for the information that I needed. September 1st was Monday a holiday. September the 2nd, I received a call from the law department telling me that my information would not be available until next week. I said, that's unacceptable. September the 9th, I finally received the information. I came down and got it. I went to the county and asked for information, basically the same stuff for the parks. They gave me the information in 5 minutes. I went to the park department and they gave me the information in 4 hours. Why does it take so long to get information from the city?
That I cannot answer. I'm sorry that happened to you. Maybe we can check into that and see if things can be changed in the future for you.
Basically 2 weeks.
We don't want to take that long.
No.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience? If not, on a high note, I would like to say thank you, Crystal Phillips, for coming. She's running for city commissioner. Thank you. Are there any other comments? If not, we're going to ask for a motion to adjourn and call the roll.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.